Hey everybody, Greg here with RC Driver, and it's episode number 18 of our Get Into RC video series. And as you can see, I have a huge mess on my desk right here. Today's topic is about connectors, and I thought this would be really easy. Let me just go over connectors with you guys. And then I started to dig into my electronics box, and I just pulled out tons and tons of different connectors. And I think this is a lot more than I anticipated, but I want to get into it because connectors are an important part of the hobby. Obviously, it's what the batteries have on them to connect it to electronics. And so really in the beginning, you kind of need to figure out what connectors you're going to use for your vehicle, because if you start to get into things, different cars have different connectors, and then maybe you have to buy adapters and stuff like that. So different battery connectors will work with different speed controllers and stuff like that. It's really just better to start off in the beginning, deciding what connector you want to go with and keeping with that connector through your hobby experience. And that'll just make things a lot easier. So I want to start off with battery connectors. Now, a lot of cars in the past, they came with a Tamiya style plug, and that's this plug right here. This plug is an inexpensive plug. It still comes with some cars, but it can lead to failure. And I just want to throw that out there because I've seen a lot of these fail over the years. They work well in low stress applications, but once you really start, maybe you change the pinion gear on the car, or you start running it through some tall grass or something like that, the strain that the car goes through when power situations are changed can lead to failure on certain connectors. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It's typically just with this style, but it could happen with smaller connectors as well. This is a mini plug, but I might be getting a little ahead of myself right here. Let me just back up for a second. So this is a Tamiya style plug. Again, this comes with a lot of cars, and I kind of recommend just kind of thinking about upgrading from this right from the bat. And a lot of people, they go to a T-style connector. That's this connector right here. And it's also called a Dean's connector, and there's a variety of these available right now. So if your car comes with a T connector, like this axial truck here, this is actually called a star plug from Habaco, but that's what comes on here. And this is actually universal. These are one of the few universal plugs out there. So they call it T-style, a star style, or Dean's, and then this is a brand from Hobby King. It's a T plug. So if you see T plug, that's a very universal connector to go with. They're usually a very good connector too. The Deans especially. Deans pretty much pioneered this plug, so they've really refined this plug to work really well in high current applications. Kind of got to watch out for the cheaper knockoffs. Sometimes the plastic housings can melt and kind of twist and move, and it's hard to use that plug. So just kind of keep that in mind. But if you go with a T-style, again, that's probably the most common, I would say, since the Dean's connector has been around for so long. But it's a very good plug to use. Another style that is available is the EC style from Horizon. You'll see a lot of these on the ECX brands, on the Lozi brands. This is an EC5, this is an EC3, and I believe they have one other for micro use. But this is also a good plug. It's kind of a variation on a bullet style plug. There's the bullet style inside. And that's what a lot of these other ones are. They're kind of like a bullet and cup style. Male is the bullet side, and the female is the tube side of a lot of these connectors. Maybe that's something else I should throw out while I'm jumping around here. Sorry. Again, there's just so much stuff to kind of talk about that I don't really have a set plan. So bear with me on this one. I'm usually a little bit more organized about the flow here. But again, there's just so much stuff going on. So there is the male side, and then there is the female side. The male side is usually on the speed controller, and the female side is usually on the battery. And the reason why they do that is, so for example, you accidentally drop this side onto something metal, it's not going to short out, where if this side was on the battery and it hit something metal, it would short out. All right, so we've gone over the EC3s. I've kind of showed you what a Dean's is. There's also Traxxas brand. Now this is an older style Traxxas brand. As you can see, it's a square style plug, but they've now gone to this newer style plug. It is a proprietary plug, so that's something to keep in mind as well. With that new style of Traxxas plug, you can only get Traxxas batteries for it. The other brand of batteries out there, they're only able to use this style plug. They still are compatible, but for safety reasons, Traxxas has gone to this style of plug, and they really want you to use this style plug for your safety. So there are a lot of other plugs to talk about. Again, this is a mini plug here. This is used on a lot of 18 scale cars and smaller cars. There's also a mini plug. Minis and micro plugs are used for very small cars. This is a mini Tamiya plug. You'll see these on a lot of overseas cars. Let me see what else I have. Oh, the XT plugs. These are actually some pretty good plugs here. So this is an HT60, this is an HT90, and you go with a larger plug when you have more current going through your car. So if you have a 10 scale car and you're just running on a 2S battery, this size plug works just fine. But if you go up to a 3S or a 4S, there's got to be a lot more current flowing through the wires, and you go with a larger plug that could handle more current. And then if you go in towards the racing side of things, there are bullet or banana plugs. That's those plugs right there. And these are typically banana plugs. They've got this little bulge to it that helps to secure the pin in the tube recess of the battery pack. Or you'll see bullets that are similar to this right here. And as you can see, it is just another style of plug. And you'll typically find these on motors. Okay, now to wrap up the battery connectors, this is an HXT battery connector here, and you'll see these on some overseas cars as well. Again, it's another play on the tube and banana plug style connector, just with a different housing. And then finally over here, I have a power pole connector. These are used, I think a lot of airplane guys use these. You don't see these too much in car use anymore. We used to use them a lot in the past. They're actually a pretty good connector as well. So that's really it for the battery connectors. Then some other connectors you kind of need to know about are the balance connectors here. So this is a balance connector, and there are various balance connectors out there. There's a lot of different styles. So when you do get a battery that has a balance plug and you get a charger, you got to make sure that you get the right balance board to go with the balance connector that you have. There's a lot of universal board manufacturers out there. So these boards are really big and they have all the different style connectors on there. So maybe you want to go with one of those when you are selecting a charger. So those are balance connectors. One other connector to kind of throw out from this pile here. This is here it is. This is the sensor wire. These are pretty much universal, so you don't have to worry about that. You'll sometimes see different color coding of the wires, but the connector itself is a universal connector, so you don't really need to worry about that. And then there are the servo connectors. Now, everything here has pretty much gone universal as well. There are slight variations, but basically they'll all be able to be used together. So this is a Futaba style connector here, and this is a Spectrum connector here. And as you can see, there is a positive and a negative. Negative is always on the outside, positive is in the middle, and then the signal wire is over here. In this case, there's a white signal wire. Over here, there's an orange signal wire. Now with a Futaba plug, there is a little tab on here, and a lot of times you could actually cut this tab off to use it in different receivers. So right here in this Futaba receiver, it plugs right in, it keys in nicely. But if you go and use a Futaba style plug on a different receiver, it may not have that little notch in there, and that's when you go and cut this tab off. So this is a Spectrum servo, and this will actually plug right in. Just need to be aware of where the wires need to go. So typically the negative goes on the outside of the receiver and the signal goes towards the inside of the receiver. I don't think there's any variations out there that are different from that. So just keep an eye out, make sure you have the wires in the correct locations so your servo or your speed controller works properly. And finally, I think there's the old school bullet plugs. It's just, again, another variation. This is the female bullet plug for a brushed motor. Again, there's just a ton of different variations out there, and you kind of just need to be aware of everything that's available. So when you get into RC, you're just aware, and you can kind of say, hey, I want to stick with this style connector to make my RC life a lot easier. So everything's compatible as I progress in the hobby. All right, guys, I hope that answered any questions you had about connectors. If you have any tips about connectors, please throw it in the comments section below, of course. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button, throw this video a like if it helped you out. And if you haven't done so, head over to rcdriver.com, see what type of RC info we have over there.